Give it up for Laura!
It was me with the toddlers. They will not remember, I guarantee it. I will never forget it. So it was 2016 when I decided it was time to pursue a lifelong dream, maybe a lifelong destiny, to become a champion on Wheel of Fortune. I will argue with anyone that Wheel of Fortune is the greatest game show to ever game show, okay? And that's maybe because I have warm and fuzzy feelings of watching it with my grandma growing up. But I remember being a kid on the couch with my grandma and watching Vanna White turn the letters in her lovely gowns and saying, one day I will be a contestant on that show. The problem is it's a lot of people's dream to be on Wheel of Fortune. Thousands of people audition every year just to get on the show. But I was confident. I sent in my audition video and I tried to be chipper and likable to all of America. And it worked because they called me in for an in-person audition. And I knew I would do well at the audition because I was a literature and theater major, English and acting. I could do it. And honestly, I was confident after the audition. I thought I nailed it. I thought there was no way they were not gonna call me. So I was so confident that when I went home, my mom noticed that I was still driving my 2002 Honda Civic that was on its last legs, and she offered to give me her car so I would have a replacement. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm gonna go on Wheel of Fortune. I'm gonna win a car and a trip to Hawaii, so I don't need it. She was skeptical, but she honored my wishes. But also, I knew I had a plan. See, game shows like Jeopardy are really hard to are really hard to prepare for because they could ask you anything under the sun. But Wheel of Fortune is a winnable game, okay? It's restrained by the English language. There are only 26 letters in the English language. And while I was a literature and theater major, I had been working for over 10 years as a web developer. So I had gotten really good at programming and thinking about things in a programmatic way. And so, while most people who are preparing to go on Wheel of Fortune maybe watch the show on their DVR or even play the video game, I went a little extra on my preparations. I discovered that the Wheel of Fortune message boards, the fan message boards, had all of the puzzles from the last 10 years or so archived. So, as you do, I wrote a web crawler bot to go and scrape all of the answers from the past 10 years or so, insert them into a database where I could do a letter analysis to see the frequency of letters that were showing up in puzzles. I compared them against the frequency of letters in the regular English language to see where the discrepancies are, because you know those producers are smart. They're not just doing any old letters, right? They're trying to come up with tricky things, especially in the final round. And in that, I discovered two things. One is that the most common letters in the first rounds spell out the words eat irons. So if you remember that and do them in order, it can help. But really what I found out is that the producers, being tricky as they were, weren't using normal letters. The letters that were optimal to choose in the final round aren't the most common ones. They're actually G, H, P, and O. And I knew going in that those would be the letters I chose if I got to the final round. But I didn't stop there. I took all that data that I had scraped from the web, and I built myself a web app to practice. I put all the real answers from the previous 10 years into the web app, auto-filled with GHPO, and gave myself a 10-minute timer. And I played that app every day for 5 months while I waited for them to call me. And I was certain they were gonna call me. And they did, guys. They called me. I got a call to go tape in December. I had auditioned all the way back in June. And I went in, and I was nervous. I thought it was gonna be a tough day. There's a lot of people who audition, so a lot of people are really good. But no one had my preparation, and I knew it. So when it came time to film the episode, I was standing next to Pat, and I was confident. I knew I was gonna do well. And guys, I did pretty well. I solved all 3 toss-ups. I solved most of the puzzles. Pat was making jokes that there wasn't gonna be a show the next day because I had solved all the puzzles too soon. And I solved It's a Little Piece of Heaven and discovered I was going to Maui on the prize puzzle. So everything was going as planned. And then it came time for the final round. I had qualified for the final round, obviously, and I went to stand next to Pat after I'd picked my little card out of the rotating thing, the wheel, if you will, and I stood there and I looked at the board, and I really played it up like I didn't know what letters I was going to choose. I said, G-H-P-O? To buy more time, right? And as the letters came up, I just grinned from ear to ear, and Pat shushed the audience, said, no one say anything. And he made a joke about, you could use the whole 10 seconds if you need it. But I immediately said, foolproof method. And the audience started cheering, and I won a brand new Ford Mustang. And my mom was in the audience, and she came out to hug me, and she said to me, I think your grandma was here tonight helping you. And while that's a super sweet thing to say, guys, I definitely thought of her, but I gotta give myself credit. It was my foolproof method that made me a champion on Wheel of Fortune. Thank you.
Keep it going for Laura. Also, give it up for her grandma. She deserves some credit, too.